There you go. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Okay.
There we go.
Got it. How are you, Joe?
I am good. How about you? It's
We're
falling on
great.
us to carry the podcast today. And so you get to set the agenda. You can ask whatever questions. And if you don't have a topic, well, we can talk about the solar changes that have been going on the last few days, because I don't know if you felt any like physical changes. It always happens to me, like in the back of the base of my neck, it starts to get tight. And
Okay.
if you watched what happened yesterday, oh my God, there were KP6 level storms that have come toward Earth now over the last 2 days. There was a 6.9 earthquake in what they call the Southern Atlantic anomaly, and it hasn't been like that for a while.
Wow.
Never mind everything else that's going on. And I was looking at the temperature. I'm in mid-California, and the temperatures here over the next couple of days are supposed to vacillate by like 40 degrees between 50s at night and near 100 during the day. It's just crazy, the weather patterns.
Oh, wow.
We're
Man.
just trying to adjust.
Yeah, we're just trying to adjust over here. But so Earth is kind of active right now. And it's switching, right? Changing.
There was something else happened yesterday. I saw it posted on Facebook. And I remember I grew up in Minnesota. And so we used to go up north fishing, kind of along the Canadian border. That was the first time I had ever seen Aurora Borealis when I was a kid. And somebody said, oh, that's just the sun reflecting off the poles. And so I just took that as truth. Well, later in life, I'll find out what that really is. And that's just energy coming from the sun that happens to hit the poles when it finds it. But the magnetic field's been breaking down around us for 20 years. And so more of that energy just finds its way in. So when I was talking about the flow that's coming in our direction over the last couple of days, this is what that energy has to go somewhere. It always goes in the poles. Some of it finds its way around, just finds its way in the southern pole. But when it hits the core, it's energy. It's got to move. It's got to go somewhere. So now you can see how the Earth is just flexing to this new environment. Whether in that particular case, it was a volcano, but it was underground, and so there was tsunami concerns always when you get a 6.9 type degree in, I think it was like 10,000 meters of water is how they measure it, but it's going to have an effect. Anyway, somebody had posted a picture on Facebook near Mille Lacs Lake, which is kind of in middle Minnesota, and it's the biggest lake, I think, in the middle of the state. They had pictures of the Aurora Borealis there last night. Now, I was a kid. That was 50 years ago when the last time that phenomenon was seen over the state of Minnesota whatsoever. And that far down tells you that something is changing.
Yes. Wow. Well, let me say something. I wasn't expecting this interaction. I thought we were going to watch you interview someone and we were going to be in the background. And if you said, does anyone have a question? And we would go, so this is a little.
This is your opportunity.
Yes.
Take your time. It's okay. It's not the first time, but here, this is a gift for both of us because I always get something out of these too. So here's your opportunity to ask whatever questions you got, and we'll freestyle it, because later, people are still going to find the podcast later. And the exchange we're going to have is going to be meant for somebody else too.
Okay, so this is beautiful. So when you opened up and you said, are you experience any kind of pains in the last couple days, but I have right under my left, my right arm, like on my shoulder, like it's kind of like on this, not my shoulder, but on the side. And I'm like, what is that?
Or the lateral.
Like a lateral, like uncomfortableness kind of a thing. So I've been drinking a lot of water, bouncing.
To me, good. I characterize them as they're always kind of muscular aches in my case. And really, I didn't pay any attention to this for a long time. A couple of years ago, when the effects of the solar phenomenon that comes toward Earth, I started to pay attention to it then. And even then, when I began, I didn't, connect the dots between, what happens physically to us and that phenomenon. I was certainly aware that it had effects on Earth, but she's a sentient being just like we are. How in the world did that slip past me that it wasn't going to affect us too? So now I pay close attention when I know that those phenomena are coming, and I pay attention to how I feel. Well, yesterday, before it really started to kick in, I could feel this. And it's almost like you sleep wrong and, something just went wrong.
Did you do something? Did you hurt yourself? Did you pick something up? And I'm like, this has to be Ascension symptoms.
Yeah. They're more physical. These are physical manifestations of that change. And they're indicative of the phenomenon that's going to take Earth to the next place. She's adjusting to these new vibrations, shall we say. But the stuff that's coming at us from the sun is photon plasma, right?
Okay.
Photon is
whatever
creation
you
material.
Say. That sounds good.
I'm going with what you say.
That's wonderful.
Well, I don't want you to believe it. I want you to feel if there's truth in it to you, because once it finally and it took me a long time to connect all these dots. I don't believe anything at face value either. I have to go down all those rabbit holes so that I can understand. And sooner or later, I know I'm going to be engaged in a conversation. I will be able to speak intelligently about it. So there are still things that I don't know, but I'm going to speak candidly about the things that I do, so that other people can begin to understand the phenomenon for themselves. Just like you, I had this ache and I don't know where it's coming from. Well, start to pay attention to this solar phenomenon, and there's a couple really good websites where you can look at it. NOAA has on their webpage one that's called Space Weather Enthusiasts Dashboard. And there you can see all of the effects that it has on the planet that the rest of us are kind of ignoring. And then there's another place, the USGS, Geological Society, has a website, and they'll show you volcanic activity and earthquakes. And when both of those are active, something's going on.
And another thing, now, the pain that we are experiencing, that means that Earth is shifting closer to the fifth dimension? Or
well, it's a process. She's not going to jump from the 3 to 5. She has to navigate her way through 4, which honestly, we have 1 foot in there already. That's why we're beginning to sense what's going on. She'll get to 5 faster, but man, this density that we're in the 3rd dimension is heavy. And we got to crawl out of here first. Once we get to the next level, many things change. Not just not Earth and her environment, but our bodies are going to undergo physical changes. You are aware, right?
Oh, yes.
That photon energy that's coming our way is capable of not altering our DNA so much, but opening up that junk DNA. It's been stored there for a while. It's just waiting to be reactivated. So the photon energy that's been coming at us now since 2012, we find ourselves in an area of the galaxy where there's an enhancement in that. And so it's being spread across the entire galaxy. All of this is in a cosmic cycle, and everything is evolving. Earth is on her way, whether all the humanity kumbaya together enough to get us there, she's not contingent on that. We're just critters crawling on the surface, and we're affected by the same things she is because she's just as physical as we are. We've got to pass through the fourth dimension first. And if you believe in reincarnation, here is where you go sign up for your next soul contract. If you believe in reincarnation, you've had past lives. You've had lots of them. Lots.
Yeah.
All those experiences get tucked away here until the day when you reach a different level of awareness. And then all of that stuff that we struggle to remember about ourselves through each life we have is all at your disposal again. All of it. Now, whether you decide you want to ascend or you're not done playing your third dimensional lessons out, that's a decision that everybody makes for themselves.
We're done.
Yes.
We are.
No, we're ready to hit the 5D. And I want my junk DNA back, which is the Akashic records, telekinesis, everything.
Yeah.
Right.
You are. The fact that you uttered those words, know that that's what's coming for you already.
Oh, yes. Like I would say maybe a month ago, the doors flung open with all of this. So, and we can, how did I find you? I was looking for, I have a fascination with Lemuria. And I think that I was searching for Lemuria and you had popped up and I started watching all of your, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe. And you have sort of like a small following, but I think that that's going to be getting bigger.
Look, when you mentioned that a month ago, this kind of all triggered for you. I've been doing interviews since this Telos thing. And so it's been about 2 years now. And one of the interviews I did with Danny Henderson, and I love Danny, has had like 84,000 views. Now I know that that's because Inner Earth was in the title, Lemuria was in the title, and that's triggering people who didn't understand what those things were before. You know what I knew about Lemuria before I got invited to go see Telos?
Nothing
In my current wherewithal.
Exactly.
But what it tells me is we were all Lemurian, all of us. We all passed through that civilization.
Right.
And you passed through Atlantis. Believe me, you passed through Egypt. You have been through all of those places and have experiences that you've been tucking away.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And so.
But I want to hear more about how you got here.
Yeah. So I kind of, like we've been through all the church thing, the Catholic, the Baptist, what back in the day, what we called speaking in tongues, which now I'm learning is the
star language.
Star language. And can you believe that we tuck that away? I mean, through our evolution, if you want to say, through the churches, and we always felt like there was something missing. We're not getting what we need until we got to the Jewish faith, and we thought, oh, we've made it. This is where we're supposed to be. This is the end, blah, blah, blah. And after 7 years of that, I started feeling in my spirit, I think there's something else. And I'm like, oh, there's something else. And so right soon after that, like I said, circumstances, which I won't go into, the doors flung open. And I was just ready for whatever things were falling away. Like the Bible was watered down. Things were taken out. We know that all the books aren't there. And I started asking questions. One of my biggest questions was, if Jesus walked on water, Yeshua walked on water, he created a coin in a fish's mouth and we pull it out. He's making water into wine and we're supposed to be like him. Why isn't anybody talking about this? Why aren't we delving into that? And I it's because they didn't want us to know. They don't want us to know who he was, and things are just sort of breaking wide open. And with your guests that you've had on, it's just like, I can't get enough. I feel like a sponge and I'm soaking it all up. And now once I learned again that the tongue, speaking in tongues, was actually the star language, I reconnected with it. And now it's like
Oh
the
my
people
God.
are coming together. And when I'm speaking in the star, I had an experience where it's just, I felt like I connected, and you're having these little experiences along the way, and you know that something else is there. And it's just, So for us to talk to this, it's a pleasure to be able to talk to you like this.
Well, it's an honor.
It's an honor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's
Well,
just
thank
us.
you for saying so.
The questions, it's like, I want to take you back into Telos. I'm like, because it's not so much, I told Berwin, it's not so much that I have questions for you. It's that I want to experience these beings. I want to experience the light beings, the inner earth, you know? And I know that there's a lot of responsibility, because even with Anita, that interview was just beautiful, but she had a lot of work to do to get to where she was. Like, she's connecting with someone else's soul to connect with them, to be able to read them and help them through that light language. And the crystals, and tell me, I was never into crystals. I'm like, well, they're pretty. I thought they're pretty, but now I grabbed a hold. I bought my first Lemurian crystal, and
they're pretty to get your attention. You know that, right? Oh. And once they've got your attention, then they're here to assist you. And now you can connect with their vibration. Everything's vibration, sound, symbols, color. That is the way we're going to communicate. You've already talked about telekinesis and those things that are latent inside of us. They just need to be woken up. And in this density, we just don't have access to those tools yet. But those of us that seem to be awakening at a freaking rapid rate. If I told you how many people have reached out in the last 2 weeks, as opposed to those 84,000 things with Danny, it's been crazy.
Yes. So we're out there. We are definitely out there, and you want to talk to people about this, like people that are in your like you're at work or your family.
You're finding tribe that you can talk about it with.
Yes.
Everyone else is still asleep, and bless my heart, my family is the same way. In fact, it was last week, I was talking to my brother, and it took him a while to just digest what I've been going through. I don't know that he believes it entirely, but he knows that something happened with me, and I'm no idiot. You know, I was given a certain amount of intellect so that I can speak intelligently to people. At my age, there are people around me that are suffering from debilitating things, and they're losing their thoughts and their memories. I'm on a different trajectory, and whatever is being opened up for me to share, I sound much more profound than I did 10 years ago. And it's just a flow. It finds its way out of you. And when a subject triggers, all of a sudden awareness of things I have no idea how I know, I just know, comes out. And people sense the truth. The same way that when you find yourself in this spiritual community once things like this happen and the word gets out. But it takes little time for you to discern a lot of these people are full of shit. And I don't know what they're hung on to, but they're talking about the same things they started to talk about 20 years ago. And the thing is, everything's evolving. You can't tell me that you haven't changed in 20 years and yet you still talk about the same things.
Yes, I get it. Well, I noticed that too. It's like, we want to move on. We want to connect. We know that it's coming. We know.
Yeah. We did our homework. We went and said, what is the characteristic of Lemurian? And they showed all the characteristic. I was listening to it. I was like checking, yep, that's me. Yep, that's me. Like almost the whole page was me. I was like, wow. And my wife, Lisa, as well. So we are part of that family, plus Pleiadians as well.
And you know,
Oh,
and then one day,
we're
honestly,
really
you know,
tribe, aren't we?
oh,
Yeah.
yes, and I
yeah.
know you appreciate this, but we know that the I don't know what you want to call them, our Earth, our space family or whatever, they're watching us, and we know this. And one day we were sitting here and we heard this hum, like a humming. It was like it was nothing coming from the place that we are living in. So we looked at each other and we went outside and we heard this hum, and we were looking up and like, is that them? And we're like waving and saying like the Palladians and the Octurians, and I was just thinking that they're telling us that they're there, but it's not the time to beam us up or have an interaction.
Not yet. We're still in this density. But I began to talk about, you know, that photon energy that's sinking into us. Our bodies are mutating at a cellular level because at some point, when whatever phenomenon is going to come our way and click this switch, our bodies change from this carbon thing that wears out over time and needs maintenance to a crystalline form. And the Lemurians we all know about, we don't know if they're hundreds, thousands of years old. They look flawless, and that's why.
And they're beautiful. And I'm like, yes, that's what we're gonna look like. And I have to say that the switch for me, because I was stuck in this, the quantum financial system's coming. The med beds are coming, the Q phones are coming. And I was stuck in this lane of when is it gonna happen? When is it happening? Until a switch came into me, and I'm thinking, okay, I clicked into Lao, I'm clicking into the guest. I said, I have to make a switch. I have to start raising my vibration and get off of this, because, and like this will resonate with you and other people maybe to listen. And when you let it go, then it sort of comes faster. Like when we let go of meeting somebody to connect. Go ahead.
Let me draw a correlation for you, because you really started in a good place to kind of describe your evolution. And when we started to talk about, you know, the religious influence we have been looking for, because that's how we were conditioned. And that was, you know, we learned it from the people that were conditioned before them. They didn't know any better. They taught people what they thought they needed to know within the limitations of, you know, what we were supposed to know. But that's looking outside ourselves for answers. You just described when you found that the answers were in here. They started to come and your awareness cracked open and, oh my God, I see things from a different place. It's not just that the books were left out of the Bible. Remember, they were all written by guys, people, and everybody. I do it, you do it. When we write something, it's with our perspective, and it can't help but be tainted by our perspective. Now, that doesn't make it right in its entirety, and there's certainly limitations. Like you, I couldn't find the answers I really wanted in that environment. I spent a lot of time in church. I was an elder in the churches I was in, and it just didn't satisfy me. So, you know, you left and went other places. And I look back and I wish I could begin to have these conversations with, you know, the people that I had in those environments who loved me, and, you know, we shared things, but they're not ready. Well, I can't say that anymore, because look at how rapidly this changed. When I was talking with Cindy yesterday, this friend who came out of nowhere and has delivered many messages to me so far, when I found out when Cindy's awakening was, because I thought she'd been doing this for a long time. It was 2019. That's 3 years. 3 years.
That's not long at all.
Not in the scheme of things.
Wow.
Look at that. So everybody's waking up slowly but surely.
And it's a layer.
Well, not everybody.
Not everybody. Not everybody. But for me, I can describe it as waking up in layers. You know, there's still things that I'm seeing that I'm thinking, but I don't get as rattled anymore when I see it. Like all around us, you can just, it's incredible.
If you paid attention to the white noise around us, you can easily get sucked into that. And I sense that more and more when I go back to Shasta and I have some time, especially on my own. and then I have to come back here in traffic and congestion, and you just don't want to do it anymore. And believe me, I say this a lot, and I would continue to tell it, that there was a point last fall when things had come to me, and I didn't know to the degree what connections I really had, but I had been to the point where I sensed a connection to something else, and I was getting some of my abilities back. And so when that fall, when I went, I freaking had it with humanity. I'm done. And if I can ascend, just take me. And they said, that's not the deal you made, Lowell. You asked us to restore back some of your abilities. And you said that you would help others with it. So here you are. You got your abilities back, and there's more coming. Believe me, there's some that I haven't figured out yet. And Kumu, who came across my path last year, and I know that I sense energy. I know it. She said, I know you can sense it. Can you move it yet? And I said, what do you mean by yet? She said, yeah, you're going to get to the point where you're going to be able to manipulate energy and move it, form it, push it.
And has that happened yet?
No, I have one higher on my to-do list. And there's going to be a point at which you're going to be able to circumvent gravity, because you're going to have the ability to do that in your light bodies. You're going to be able to do that. That's what I want. I want to be able to float. And it's weird, since that came around, I had 2 dreams that I didn't quite understand, but it took away my fear of heights, because I don't like heights really. I'll do it. But it's a struggle for me. These 2 dreams went like this: that I was on the back of a motorcycle for whatever reason, and I was hanging on to the driver, right? And when the motorcycle took off, we started to go up, up in the sky. And it was like I knew I was falling off the back of this thing, and so I didn't want to take the driver with me, so I just let go, expected to plummet to the ground. I floated softly down until my feet touched the ground, and that was it. But a few days after that, I was in a tree, like I was climbing a tree when I was a kid. Well, I lost my grip, and I thought, here I go again. I'm going to head to the ground, and I just floated back down to the ground. They're just signals telling me this is what to expect. Now, you're not quite there in your readiness and your physicality and whatever that is, but I know that's coming.
Well, it's quite interesting, because a couple weeks ago, I was triggered to watch out of the blue. Now, the Harry Potter movie. Now, back in the day when all this came out and I was in the Catholic religion, this is taboo, but I love read those books and so I'm like, watch the Harry Potter movie. So we started watching it, and I said, the Harry Potter books, and back then I didn't correlate this, but it was first telling the future, like what we were going to be going through. Did you see the Harry Potter?
Oh yeah, there's no coincidences to the things that are placed in our path.
No,
we see things that we get next to help kind of broaden our understanding. Our paths cross for a purpose. Books you read for a purpose, movies you see for a purpose, words that trigger something inside of us. Those aren't coincidences. They're like triggers. Now, whether when we created our soul contract, because we get to determine the terms by which we're going to do and what lessons we want to learn, you may have planted that trigger in somebody, because we make agreements with people along our way that are going to assist us on the way. And maybe you've asked one of them to, when this time comes along, I want you to say this word, and then I'll remember this. Or I want you to sing this phrase, or whatever it is, a color that you see. Now you see how that's really manifesting, isn't it?
Got it.
Yeah.
Yes, I see. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Because these Harry Potter movies in the book is for telling about what the white hats and the black hats were doing. And
We didn't see it back
and we didn't see it back then, but now that we are awake and we saw that, I said, wait a minute. Harvey is the White Hats. Harvey is President Trump's, and he has the soldiers backing him up. I'm like, wow. It's like everything just opened right there. And we watch it to the end, and we're like, man.
It's so like
it's
when you
more about understanding magic and your ability to have magic. I would suggest don't focus as much on the duality. That movie was going to show you good, bad, black, white, on, off, because that's the world that we live in. This is what we came here to experience. We wanted to understand physicality. Here you go. It wasn't always going to be good lessons, but they were lessons nonetheless. And, I thank people. All of that information and your experiences that you've tucked away in your Akashic records, sooner or later, we all benefit from. The next level, the law of one, where we know we're connected to everybody, is where now all of that blossoms. And we weren't meant to be the same. Your gifts, Lisa, and your gifts are different than mine. And they were supposed to be at some point down the road. Your gifts are going to be required. And to you, it's the easiest thing you've ever done. To the rest of us, we marvel at it because I don't know how you do that. I wasn't supposed to know. That's what you do. Yeah. Without your little piece of the universe, the fabric's incomplete.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And it's kind of weird when I
It's a lot to take in. It takes me a while to assimilate the things I hear and the things I'm reminded of. But I neglected at the last of that, what I was talking about. Thank you for the lessons you've learned on our behalf, because I didn't have to learn yours. And you're welcome for the ones I had to struggle through. Yes. We all benefit from in the end.
Yes. Right. And you had said something in one of the interviews that, and it resonated with me, like, I don't even know how to put it in words. Like, in other words, whatever we're doing individually is benefiting the collective. And I never understood that. I thought, well, what I'm doing, who cares? Like, who cares what I'm doing? Like, nobody sees this, but in essence, they do. They do understand. Yes. Because it's, Yeah.
You are a spark of source, spirit, God, whatever you want to consider it. You are a spark of that. And you were sent out so that he could express himself and learn more about himself. That's why none of us were supposed to live the same lessons. And when we're done, we return back to source. Here's what we learned. Next lesson, or ascension.
Yes.
That is what we're here to do. And sometimes, I am thrilled when I get to hear another story about somebody who woke up recently and is starting to see things that they didn't really see before. But look at what we've been conditioned to just pay attention to. We've been distracted for a long time. And I don't know that I can point to anybody that really intended to do that. I don't spend a lot of time spending my attention and energies feeding that kind of thought, because we all know that the things that we think about are the things we manifest. So when I control the positive things I think about, I can't rule out that there hasn't been dark influences. I know there have been. And part of my job now is to transmute that into light. That's why it's, in the end, the dark cats don't win.
Right.
Light prevails through everything. It pierces all the darkness sooner or later. And here we are. So, what we're struggling through right now is the last vestiges of them trying to hang on. Because they know that there's no stopping it.
And that came through in the movies too. And we saw that, like, they fight as hard as they can.
Panicking.
It's not a fight. It's never going to be a fight. You mentioned a few things before, and I started to giggle about them, like med beds and things like that. Let me tell you what I saw when I was in Telos. You know how many med beds I saw there?
Zero.
Yeah, there aren't any. And you know
Yeah.
why? Because those crystalline bodies aren't subject to disease. We are.
Right.
This
Right.
body, this carbon body, we
Yes.
manifested that disease. It doesn't exist in that environment. And
Yes.
money doesn't exist in that environment. They don't understand why we do it. Well, we do. Because long ago, when people that were in charge decided that they wanted to be greedy and they wanted more for themselves, and that became more important than anything else. So we just slipped down this rabbit hole, and some people have hung on to that and didn't look back, but they don't see that we're all connected to one another. They still think that there are stratas of people, and some are better and more lucky than others. No, when you all go back to your original source, there, all of a sudden you wake up and go, oh my God, here's all my friends. It saddens me to a degree when people grieve over loved ones they've lost, because they don't really realize they haven't gone anywhere. They're just in a place where you can't, in this incarnation, communicate with them anymore, but they're trying to communicate with you.
We understand that. And I think when my mother recently just passed away, and I said that to my sister, and she says, huh? Because she just doesn't, we're not on the page. No, she's not ready. And you know what? Like we were, I guess, a couple months ago or whatever, people call the people that have not awoke or that are awake, like sleepers or normies, and we get mad at them because they're not awake. And I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like that, because you go back to their contract. They agreed to be the way that they are at this period in their life, in this period of where we're at. I mean, so we have to just
That's a really good point. We have no idea what lessons they signed up for. It's just our job to dispense love and allow them. We're sovereign beings with free will, correct? Which is why this Earth experiment is so important. Humanity was going to be that experiment to prove that. And the rest of the galaxy is watching, because you know how many other places where they recognize sovereignty and free will? None that I'm aware of.
No. Mm-hmm.
And so when you meet somebody new, or you can maybe say something on the lines of, are you aware of what's going on, in a gentle way? And if they don't respond, like they know, then you just accept it and let them be who they are, and love everybody. So it's happening very fast. This, either it's I don't know, it's a letting go. It's a surrendering to what's going on, to who you're becoming. And I understand that I want it, but they're only giving me what I can handle where I am right now. And I'm glad that they're doing that, because man,
I'm glad you said that.
Like, we're just seeing little sparks, little flashes. And I'm like, like, show us the rainbow. Where's the little fairies at? It's we're just like kids in a candy store. I can say that I feel like I'm a kid in a candy store. I resonate with what you're saying, what your guests are saying, and it's just like my heart is like big, and I'm just excited. I'm just really excited for what we're going into, and the fifth dimension.
It's lovely to hear. Yeah. Well, there's better news than that. There's a whole history behind Earth and how she became a planet that was going to sustain life. Because if you want to kind of put your sci-fi hat on and see it that way, then I'll tell you is that kind of story. Earth had been, my friend Dave calls it an interstellar conveyance place. So there was traffic that's gone through this part of the galaxy forever, and whatever Earth was, whatever shape she was in, had always been a buy station, because it was a place that could hold water, and they would stop here for whatever. So this buy station, there was another planet, Malduk, that used to be between Mars and Jupiter, And there is certainly enough phenomenon that takes place in, the sky, in the galaxy, where, things fall. We get hit by comets and that occasionally. And so we can't rule out that phenomenon doesn't happen and it's changed. Well, Malduk, under those circumstances, was destroyed. And she was meant to be the record keeper for this part of the galaxy. And when that failed, they looked at Earth and went, maybe this would work. So there were Pleiadian scientists that came because they're the master botanists in the galaxy. And they came first with the idea when the Galactic Federation talked about this opportunity to turn it into a life-sustaining planet. They had to come here under the auspices that, this is an experiment. It's an experiment. We're going to see how it goes. So when the Pleiadians came and they formed the mantle and created the crust and everything else, and all of a sudden they had this beautiful green wonderland. Well, it was so beautiful that they petitioned to stay here, to colonize, and that's where it began. Then you saw other influences coming. Lyrians, who lost their planet during some of that phenomenon as well, migrated to Sirius. So you, little miss, I might have some Syrian influence in me. You may even have Lyrian influence in me as well. But they came and they were master builders and architects. So these Colossus things that you've seen built around here, that you go, how in the hell did a human do that? Well, they did. And you can only imagine what's underneath the surface that we haven't even seen that was created long ago and is just laying there. It's just overwhelming to think about it.
It's incredible. It's just
so. In that infancy, I'll finish quickly because I really want to hear you. She was built as a 7th dimensional station. Middle Earth is still 7th dimensional. So it's not that humanity is trying to get from 3rd to 5th dimension. No. Our goal is to get back to 7th dimension. The very first Lemurians were 7th dimensional beings.
I heard you saying that too. I was like, okay, so let's go.
Okay, and you had said, Lau, once when you were in Telos, and Telos actually in Hebrew means end goal. And I thought that was so cool. If Telos means end goal, then that's where we're all that's where our goal. That's
where we're gonna go.
But you had said that they put you in a little vehicle thing with 2 seats and you took off. That was a Merkaba?
No.
No,
whatever this, it looked more like a platform. So it was flat and it just had, I call them bucket seats because I don't know what else to call it. They weren't really that. There's no console. There's no steering mechanism on here. You get on this thing and it levitates and away you go.
Oh, wow. So it's like that movie, Adam.
I don't remember.
Oh, I forgot the name of the movie, but it's like a mat then you hopped on and you went.
Well, I don't know what it was made out of. I would love to say it was crystal because most of the rest of the city was formed from that. But I don't know, this material wasn't that. It wasn't anything that I recognized at the time. It wasn't wood, certainly. It wasn't metal. And crystal, it wasn't that. I don't know what it was, but our next incarnation, we manifest whatever we wish. There's no delay like here, where we have a wish, we have an intent, and we put it out there, and we wait for the universe to bring it back. And there's a delay here in 3rd dimension for a reason. Because if we got what we did in this density, we would be overwhelmed quickly, as would here. No, when we get to the next place, all of that is brought back, and we have the ability to manifest what we need immediately.
Awesome, yes.
Here's why the Lemurians and those that even in the upper 4th dimensions, 5th dimensions, they don't worry about anything. And it's not that they don't understand and realize duality. we still learn from those experiences. We have to learn good and bad. They see beyond it. And the collective comes together and they come up with solutions.
Yeah.
As a unit, as one. And now,
well, they all know we're already one to begin with. And why in the
Right.
world would I want anything bad to happen to you? Because part of me is in you, and
Yeah.
part of you is in me.
exactly.
Yes,
I
exactly.
had a revelation about that once with a piece of fruit. I thought, if God is in me and I'm in God, and God made that piece of fruit, I'm in that piece of fruit. And it just blew me away. And I had that connection with that piece of fruit. I was one. But going back to Telos, when you said there were layers in Telos.
Levels. There's 5 levels.
Okay, so you went to, how did you go to all?
I saw the first level and I saw the 3rd level. I had been told descriptions of what are on the other levels, but I did not visit that day. I'll be going back soon, because now I realize, and it took me all this time to realize I can go back there whenever I wish. I struggle in my little 3D mind that, I wanted to know when I got to go back.
Okay, so
I'm only limited by my own limitations.
So when you said you can go back whenever you wish, like you can get off this interview and say, okay, I want to go back, and they come and get you, or how do you do that?
It's for now, it would be by location, because I'm not in a physical plane to leave this body yet and go somewhere else. But astrally, I can go there anywhere I want, and I can still experience everything that's there. Once I can break free of this little biosuit, then where I wish to go, I've converted myself back into a light body. And when you're in 4th and 5th dimension, you're in that crystalline form. Exactly, you can go where you wish, and you're not affected by the elements around you. Yeah. We have fragile carbon-based bodies that are meant to wear out. They do not.
Okay, so does Alex meet with you? Do you hear from Alex?
I didn't. I went back the following year to revisit the spot, because I wanted to know if that same phenomenon would happen again. But by then, my awareness had cracked wide open. And so understanding and recognizing energetic signatures are a piece of cake for me. I see things around me. Even when I sit here, if I focused on that tree long enough, I'd see colors in it that you can't see yet. And if I listen to audible things, I can hear frequencies that other people can't sense yet. They just haven't been to the point where their awakening has allowed that to just kind of rise up in them yet. But when I say yet, this is experiences that I'm no different than anybody else. I've just, for whatever reason, I woke up and was given the gifts I was given along the way. I'm the first one, not the only one.
Exactly.
Definitely. So in other words, your DNA has been upgraded. That's what it sounds
like. It's cracked wide open. Yeah, my junk DNA is not all junk anymore. No. But I've had some accelerants, admittedly.
Really?
That's not to say that that's the only way people get there. You found your way out there without any enhancements. Something triggered in you that has brought these things that you know by, you didn't learn it in school, you didn't hear from your mom. I don't know where we got this awareness of knowledge we've had all this time, but you have it back. And when now we're just looking for touchstones. Oh my God, who can help me understand what I went through? That's what I call tribe. That tribe, the orbit is growing. Look at you two, how quickly this happened. And all of a sudden, here you showed up to, the tribe just grew. And it's not that the numbers are growing, just those of us that were supposed to come back around, man, they're all showing up. And it's at a rapid rate. Wow. I don't believe that there is a hard date that this is going to happen. I thought if I was going to believe that, I already had a preconceived notion when I went to Telos that the shift was coming winter solstice of 2020. I was convinced because even they believed it. And it wasn't that day came and went. and nothing happened. Oh God, this is a process and we're going through it. Cindy has been called to go to different places to assist in clearing spaces that need to be cleared in order for the rest of the planet to be ready. And what she told me, I'll share with you, and I don't know that I would spew this out there, but just to kind of give you a frame of reference, because if you were asking me, look at all the solar phenomenon, the shift could happen early this afternoon as well as anything in my mind. She admitted to me that her guides, and she told me this last week, had given her 2 years to get this work done.
2 years.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's close. Wow.
Yeah. In the scheme of things, 4 years ago, I'd say 2 years sounds like a lot of time. I know now it is not.
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is not.
Yeah.
But Lord, check this out. I got so excited when you said you could contact me anytime. I sent you an email. So no, because we are so ready. And when you said to say that Ilion mantra, yes. I got 2 mantras out there. Ilion Ra. I'm saying that, and I'm saying I have a crystalline body. That's my mantra. So
well, you realize that's awesome. That's how I was instructed, and the conditions for me have to be right. I can't speak for how that happens for anybody else, but those Elioms were given to me to call light beings in when I'm in a place where we can make that connection. I always do it out in the middle of nature when I know there isn't anybody else, because I was instructed to scream them out. I'm not a screaming kind of guy, and I don't act out things really in front of anybody else. To me, a lot of this is personal and almost like sacred to me. So I'm not gonna, sit in my backyard right now while people are going down the path calling out Elioms to try and call in light beings. But that's how it works. And these keys were all provided for us along the way, so that we knew what we had at our disposal and how to go about it. After my first go around, and then Kumu came along and taught me these things. I went back to Shasta. That was last year in October, beginning of the month, and I was going to be there 4 days. I had commitments that I had agreed to meet people, but I went there for like 10 days. So there were going to be some time that I could go out on my own, and I'm going to give this a try. And I'll be damned, 3 days in a row. The first day I tried it, I went to a place called Glass Mountain. It's all obsidian. Never seen anything like this. And it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. If you follow, there's a road that goes from Mount Shasta to Reno. I want to say it's 89. I probably have it wrong. But along there, you can find a part of the Shasta forest, and it'll take you off. It's 28 miles down this road to get there. So, you got to be committed. When I got there, I decided I knew there wouldn't be anybody else there. And so here's where I shouted them out, and I'll be damned if they did not show up that day. So I went home, and I went to a different place on the mountain a different day when I knew that there wasn't anybody else around. I couldn't see anybody, so I didn't really mind shouting it out as much. And again, they showed up. Now that night when I got back to my room, I didn't sleep. And I could tell, I can feel when I'm getting downloads. And I got them all night. Wow. I didn't feel fatigued in the morning when I got up, because I was going to get out and hike although I didn't sleep. So when I went in the bathroom, I looked at myself. This eye had gone bloodshot from, that was the physical manifestation of how much I was getting hammered, how much I was being downloaded. That was the physical manifestation. And so, that day I went out, we called light beings in again. So, I want to see others be able to do that same thing. So I'm tickled that you picked up on it, because you're meant to be able to do that too.
And then he told me, and I'm like, what is that again? And I wrote it down. I'm like, okay, I'm doing it too. Yeah. So with the star language and the Elioms and and just the desire to, an openness to it all. We're just
just by saying that my vibration is up high.
Good. That's really what I would love to hear, that's what you got out of it, because that's exactly what it is. This is all about finding alignment and keeping your vibration high. And when you do, look what you get to see.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it went higher when I saw that picture that you showed Elisa. When you showed to Elisa Herrera, that picture of your download that you were getting, the being through the back, I'm like, wow. I was jumping up and down.
It took me a while to understand what any of that was about. It happened so fast that when Kumu came along my path, and I didn't know who she was before the day I saw her at Mickey Magic's compound.
Yeah.
There's a whole story behind her, but she had gone over and kind of toward the end of the afternoon and had taken pictures around Mickey's plants. He is a marijuana connoisseur and he's really good at it. And he had some 8-foot plants on his deck. How it flourishes the way that it does, it just does. Anyway, she had taken some pictures and I didn't know what she's doing until she called me over and asked me to put my arms around it. And that's when she said, I want you to quote these eliomes. And I didn't really know what they were. I didn't know what they were at all. But I did it until I felt silly. And then I stopped and I turned around and then she was done. So when she went into the house, it wasn't like she hadn't during the afternoon showed me pictures on her phone of extraordinary phenomenon that was, oh my God. And I had asked, can I have that? No, I can't have these. But when we got into, after this was done, we kind of stepped into Mickey's house, got out of the sun, and she showed me the pictures she'd taken. Well, I didn't know what they were either, but I thought, man, this is really cool. It was much later that I understood what that really was. And Friday, this little event here on Friday was a validation. When those beings interacted with me, I know that was a condition I had to meet in order for her to come back the next day, because there was no reason for her to come back Saturday. And yet here she came. And when she came back, that's when she showed us these artifacts. And then she asked Mickey and I to go down to, he's got an Andara spiral there. We went down the Andara spiral and you've seen those pictures and the dimensional images that she's taken of that. I still didn't understand what any of that was. 2 days in a row, someone shows up and this is what they see. And those pictures from that day, I wouldn't see until later that evening. Now, what do you make of all that? It took a long time for me to understand what all that was. Then when we met in Mount Shasta, all that got ratcheted up by a whole other level. Because Lowell, we're not just going to take pictures of these beings here. You're going to have an interaction with them. They're going to make physical contact with you. And it was 3:00 on a Saturday afternoon. Oh my God, how does this happen? Why did it happen to me? What does all of it mean? It took me a long time to sort it out.
Wow. Awesome.
But again, I'm not going to be the only one.
Yeah. And sometimes these things happen to us and it's not until months afterwards that we get the meaning of what that was all about.
Yeah. Telos was incredible. It's a miraculous story. And people want to hear me tell that. It wasn't until my episode with Kumu and even a couple months after that all this kind of came into perspective. Lowell, Telos was wonderful. Don't get me wrong. It was your first multidimensional experience. It wasn't going to be your last. Then there were things that kind of happened in between. And then when this interaction and whatever light they left with me that day, was a physical sensation. And the beings that were there, you could hear their vibration. It had that kind of density about it. That's when I understood that what they passed me that day was like passing baton. You already carry light, Lowell, and you're getting more. that photon energy that's coming this way, it's enhancing all of you. You're going to help others understand that too, because here is how you're going to help transmute negative energy into light.
Yeah.
That is the tool you carry.
Good. Yes.
And so does that just happen naturally, or are we doing something to do that? Like, because I'm getting plenty of practice from the people, from just one person at work. And it's obvious to me that the negativity is coming to me for a reason. Like, do I say verbally, I transmute this negative energy into light? Like, do I wait till she leaves and say, I transmute this, like, and throw energy at her? Like, what do I do?
You already hold that in your aura. You beam light. And it may be why you have these interactions with her. Because unconsciously, I'll bet she's looking for relief too. Who wants to live a life like that? So we're drawn to people that we know carry that kind of light. And you don't have to say a word. Just your presence. And your love for her, in spite of the way she acts, is what's going to transmute that. And one day, she's going to snap out of that and won't realize that it was that interaction with you that triggered it.
Amen. And I don't need the recognition. I don't need that. I want to understand, like I want to understand, well, what is happening, but I don't have to know.
Yeah. We're 3D, human beings.
Oh yeah.
And we want to understand it. And until we understand it, it's a bitter pill to swallow. I've gone down more rabbit holes than I can even count anymore. But each one of them led me to some kind of connection to the final truth. And that's where I am totally comfortable with the things I know. And I don't get excited by anything. Some of that came by way of meditation, paved the way. Because once I could quiet myself, I had physical changes that I didn't join a health club, didn't change my diets. Somehow I lost 35 pounds over 6 months and then just felt different. I don't care for heavy food anymore because it's too dense and I drink water. That's it. Right. And I used to like wine. Hell, I live in Sonoma County. There's 492 wineries here. I used to go a lot.
Right.
I just don't have a craving for it anymore.
Amen. Yeah. And here's another thing that you had said, and I'm like, oh, okay. You said, well, there was a scenario you were going through and they wanted to call in light. And you had said, well, wait a minute. We are the light. Just being here. So like when they say we're light workers, we like thinking, well, what do we have to, like I had said to you, well, what do I have to do? Do I throw light at, but you said just being, and that's the beauty of it. So thank you.
Yeah, that was a wake up call for all the people in that room that day. We had all come together in that April to film an episode for, if you know who Ruben Langdon is and the work he does, he's got a series called Interview with ED. Well, he had heard about my story, and make a long story short, he wanted to include my story in an episode for last year. So that was released July 1st. I was in a room the night before with other people that were there. He had been moving across the country filming phenomenon around Mitchell Hedges' Crystal Skull and Bill Holman. Now it's been 2 years, they finally finished that project. But when I caught up with them in Shasta, they were coming through Shasta with the Crystal Skull. And somehow I got caught up in all that. Now, how, first of all, do I get to do something like that and have an episode where I'm going to tell my story with Ruben? And then how in the world did I get to sit in front of the Crystal Skull? Because who gets to do that? And I got to do it 3 times over 4 days.
What is that Crystal Skull thing all about? What is that?
That's a discussion for another day, and we'll have it.
Well, you please have that. Okay.
Yeah, we will. There was a point to all of this, and I'll come around to what it was.
I'm sorry if I broke your concentration.
No, it wasn't you.
You were filming.
So at Monday night, before we were going to head out the next day. We were all kind of deciding, well, it wasn't me. I was just sitting in the room. We were deciding what locations we were going to go to the next day. And they were talking about these sacred sites that people are aware of, and we were trying to determine what one. And that was when that thought came to me, because I'm in a room with other people who have high spiritual vibrations. The whole room is full of these 6 people in here. They got high vibes. And when they were trying to determine, well, where do we go for the highest vibration? That's when I uttered those words. And I don't even know what made me say that, because I hadn't said anything else in this room up to this point. I said, well, we're all light workers in this room, right? It's my understanding that we don't come to the mountain to get something. We always do, because it's an energy exchange. But aren't we here to plant light?
Yeah.
That is how that all started.
And I thought,
you know what? Every head in the room went, oh my God, that's right.
And I thought that was brilliant, and that resonated with me. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I received that. And so so that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
See, those are the physical things. Those are the things that we can now validate. I understood that. I said it. And when you're in a room and it resonates that way, man, you knew that came from a place that I don't know where it came from, because I don't know that I would have uttered that kind of thing before. It just came out because it was supposed to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
That was brilliant.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you something, though. That shift to the 4th or to the 7th dimension, which I want to go to the 7th, clothing is different over there, correct? Because this is low density clothing.
Yeah.
Well, these are low density thoughts. We still want to measure things in how we understand we are here, and what clothing we're going to wear, what we're going to look like, what our hairstyles are going to be. And, I can't speak to that. All I can tell you is that what I saw, I don't think they give a lot of thought to their appearances like we do here.
Yes. It's going to be such a relief where we don't have to worry about clothes and hair and skin. And
Well, I'll give you a couple other seeds to just kind of tuck away. We have physicality through the 5th dimension. We're here to understand physical. So we take physical form in the 4th dimension, 5th dimension. Now, we can't, just because they're physical, and we wonder why we can't see them, they just vibrate at a higher level than we do, and that's why we can't sense them. But once you reach 6 and above, 6 and 7, you're no longer required to take form. You certainly can, but you're a full-fledged light body. Those pictures you saw, those beings, those were 6th dimensional elders who showed up that day. And that was the form that they take. So yes, you can still see them if you can outline those energy signatures, and those pictures are proof of that. But you're no longer required to take physical form. Now your expansion's still going on, but as I understand it, once we reach 5th dimensional awareness, and we just kind of skate through the 4th dimension. Again, when we reincarnate, and that's the angelic realm, we either pick up new lessons and we come back to the 3rd dimension, play them out again, recycle, and here we go again. And once that's done, you zip into the 5th dimension. You don't spend much time in the 4th dimensional realm. So once you've satisfied what you want to accomplish in the 5th, you decide you want to ascend higher than that, it doesn't take longer, because your ability to manifest is quicker. If you wish to ascend into 6th and 7th dimensional beings, the planet is equipped. If you decide you're staying with North, she's equipped for you to enjoy all of that up to the 7th dimension. And there are levels of 8th and 9th dimension expressions here as well.
Oh, wow.
That's going to be your decision to make when the time comes.
Oh, yeah. So in other words, there's no clothing then. You like
Well,
me?
I saw them in it, but I
Yeah.
didn't ask to see. Well, what's underneath your clothing?
Yeah,
That wasn't a thought that I had.
yeah, like a woman might, a lady might do that, but you're probably in such awe that that's not even a consideration when
Yeah.
you're having an experience like that.
Yeah, there are many things I still have lots of questions about, and I'm really curious about crystalline. I really want to understand what that form is like. I've seen representations of it because that's what these beings were. I just want to understand it like everything else for myself, because until I experience it for myself, I really don't have knowledge of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. And another thing, what came to me was that your girlfriend that you have right now, she's going to be helping you.
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
Zan and I are no longer together, and we haven't really made that really public.
Really?
Oh, I'm sorry, we're doing it here.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Here's what I concluded. That
Okay.
she and I came together because there were things that we were supposed to get while we were together.
Okay.
And she's got a different path that she's on already.
Oh.
Much in the same way that I understand more and more now about divorce. And I say that, from a place of love. But look, if we're all evolving and learning different things, doesn't it make sense that sooner or later, our interests are going to vary? It doesn't make anyone a bad person. It just means that your path is going this way and it no longer really coincides with mine. But again, it doesn't make anyone a bad person. And Zan is certainly like that. She is gifted in different ways and has a different light that she has to shine. She's supposed to do that. So she's got something else she's destined to do. And apparently so do I. There's no loss of love between either one of us. We just know we've got different things to do.
Awesome.
And plus you guys are one because it's the law of oneness.
It couldn't be said better. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And I do believe that in our contracts, we agreed to go on this ride together. And I'm so thankful that I could at least talk to him about this and he can talk to me and we resonate.
That's why you're drawn to one another, because you can have these conversations. Because look, as people are evolving through their spiritual side, and that's just another part of it that's been freaking dormant. It wasn't that this is new to us. If you look at the history of those peoples, indigenous people are wonderful examples of that. They still know when they connected to source in whatever flavor you want to call that they attach to something greater than themselves. And when they find the next person, it's just a bigger extension of themselves again as well.
Right. And I think I'm able to see that a little bit more. Like when I look at you, you're an extension of me. And it's just an unbelievable love that.
Yeah, think about this. Remember those special gifts I was telling you about? And yours are unique, and yours are unique, and mine are unique. Imagine now when we're in a room together what the three of us can accomplish.
Okay, yes. And I had said in my mind, I might even have said to Bert, wouldn't it be neat to be living next to these people?
Yeah.
And like if Lau had an experience, he could say, hey, Lord Berwin and Lisa, come on. And to be with the same. Oh, and one thing that I noticed, that the ego is zip.
No.
The ego level. And it's so beautiful to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when you do see when somebody has experiences, they're telling about them or whatever, and they're kind of like, you can see the ego coming through a little bit or something that they have to work on yet. It kind of turns me off. So there's very little people that I'm connected to right now, and you happen to be the first one, because I'm like, this is happening pretty fast and people are falling away, but we understand why. And it's just that they haven't gotten to the point where they let their ego or understand what ego is, first of all, because you have to understand what as life is of its own. and it's a journey, but yeah.
That's evidence to me that you understand the next dimension, because you see things from that perspective. And our ego, it's not that we kick it off to the side, because it still has a role to play, but we no longer let it control our thoughts. We're no longer so fear-based, which is what it triggers all the time in us. And when we can arrest that, now what you get to see and experience, you no longer see it from a fear-based perspective. It's hard for me to even just scroll through the news, because I just want to take one article and pick it apart. Look at all the words in here that are going to trigger fear in me, and there's no reason for me to believe any of that stuff's going to happen. And yet it still gets perpetuated by people that just can't lift themselves above that. You describe looking at things from that perspective. It's not, again, just like the Lemurians I described, don't understand that there's some duality to deal with. We see beyond it, and we still understand we're connected to everybody else. And once that level of comprehension comes for us, that's when you help the rest of us see your perspective.
And then the love quotient comes in to all of that. And then that's a vibration lift.
That's kind of the reminder. When you feel that kind of love thing, that helps your decision making, doesn't it?
Yes.
When you look at somebody or a situation through that filter, you can't help but come away from it compassionately. That either you feel good for yourself or you feel better for them, because they can kind of see it from a different spot. But it takes a while to get past that. And when you're hammered by it all the time in the media and whatever other influences you have, until you can learn to tune that out and just focus on the wonderful things, that's when the wonderful things will start to
Amen.
perpetuate.
Yes. So this is so exciting.
Oh, so excited. Lord, I think I'm gonna go to Dick's Sporting Goods, buy a tent and go to your house.
We live in Tennessee. And we always say when we go for a walk, we need to get hiking boots, and those sticks that you use. Because we haven't done that yet. And I'm like, I just
now I want to go to Mount Shasta.
I think
there.
It's just like I'm bubbling over with excitement. Like, I think we were given this opportunity with you. I'm going to have to start writing down questions. And like I said in the first, it's not so much about the questions, it's about experiencing it. But and it will come. It will come.
We're going to have questions, because there are things that are foreign to us, at least in this particular thought right now. It seems foreign to us. And when we get an opportunity to kind of just let that expression come out in an environment that's safe, risk-free, that will allow you to explore. Because look, like I said at the beginning of this, I always get something out of these communications too. It's not that I'm going to sit here and spew things that you need to digest. No, between the exchange, you get something out of it, I get something out of it, and all of a sudden our cost just grew.
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
And so
that's awesome. And plus, once that happens, like you said, our vibration goes up high, we helping the planet to shift even faster.
I would like to say that that's true.
Really? No.
It doesn't. And here's why. She's on a cycle of her own, and it has nothing to do with us. We're critters crawling on her. Her ascension is assured. Ours is the only one that is not, because ours is a choice. She's in a cosmic cycle moving into her next incarnation. And it had nothing to do with whether we kumbaya together. That has to do with us individually. But ascension planetary is assured. She's going. Our individual ascensions are our choices.
Okay. So you just
So in other words, So in other words, for us just to heavy up, get your vibration up high, and just go with Mother Nature, with the planet.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That's exactly right. You know, if you want to stay here on the planet, you have to match your vibration.
Right.
And it's not very far away that this shift is going to take place in whatever manner that takes place. If your vibration matches hers and she takes her new form, you stay, you enjoy it. Those whose vibration doesn't match, you can't experience something you can't vibrate at the same level with. So here's where I just help people reason through it. And my 3D brain, can I get that?
Well, in our meditations, I get that. So in our meditations, we can say, I want to vibrate with Mother Earth. Is that what we're saying? Yes.
Just work on your own vibration. This is all about you. So before, when we worried about others a lot and we're caregivers, because I can tell you're all service to others, individuals just like me, not service to self. This is what you need to fix. And when you fix this and that light emits, like we talked about, that negative person you found at work, that is how you help others. We can't really give an intent to help you because that's not my job. Again, I don't know what your lessons are. And it's not for me to get in the way. If there are two things I learned when this Ascension handbook was placed in my path. One, that we all come here to learn lessons. They're not all going to be good and they're not mistakes. They're lessons we learned and eventually the collective benefits. But there's also what's called a trial. And that's when you insert yourself into someone else's business. You've just connected a karmic cord that wasn't necessary. You had no business sticking your nose into their events because, again, you have no idea what lessons they're going through. All we can do is just step back from a place of love and support and allow it.
Interesting that you say that, because I had a person in my life that actually stepped in and said, oh, I'm going to help you without me even asking her to help me. And it probably caused.
Well, that can still be problematic for you too, because that's a karmic cord that needs to be cut. And remember when I said karma needs to be cleared in the next realm in order for you to really ascend. That's something that intentionally, unintentionally just got stuck there. Now, you can absolutely dissolve that. Whether or not they recognized it or not, there's a way for you to get past that, absolutely. But I only bring that up to just bring awareness to people when they understand what a trial is and what long-term effects that has for them.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so when we get to a point where we can have our Akashic records read, or maybe through the star language, to see if there are any ties that we have to other people that need to be, they're like holding us down from.
You already know what they are. You have people in the back of your mind that, pop in there every now and again because of an incident. Those are, and you can lovingly let those go. Somebody taught me the Ho'oponopono prayer. You know what I mean by that? There's a very simple prayer that you can put out there to release that kind of thing. And it goes like this. It's only 4 lines long.
All right, wait. Where's my pencil? Hold on.
You got a pen.
It's 4 lines long?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. 4 lines long.
We're talking too loud.
I know you're scrambling to write these down, but it's really going to be simple and you're not going to forget it when I tell it to you. Okay? Yes. It goes like this. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I love you. Cord cut. Now, whether it cut on their side or not, that's up to them. We are not in a position to do that for anybody else. We can only do it for ourselves. And when we recognize them and intentionally cut them like that, you have now satisfied what you needed to do, and you did it in a loving way, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
I'm good.
All right, gang.
All right, Lo, it was a pleasure and an honor.
You know where to find me. This isn't the last one of these we do. You know how to
Right.
reach me when you want to do that in between these. Thursday nights and Sundays like this, we like to do these live, and then we'll post the replays. So this will be up later today. If you just
Okay.
want to listen to this on podcasts, if you listen to Spotify or Amazon or Apple Podcasts, these find their way there. And then I take the videos and I put them on my YouTube channel, so everybody can go back and listen to them again. There was a while where I wouldn't see that many people come by, but it's not like that anymore.
No.
I don't even keep track of how many times people come and do these things now. I'm just grateful that they do, and clearly something's coming around because I hear about it. And then we have opportunities like this to have conversations, and this was meant to be like this today. Oh, believe me, it's going to get shared so other people can listen to it and they'll get something out of it too. But this was meant for you and I. And in that exchange, we came away with things that were not new. Nothing is new. It's just we're recalling things that we knew before. That's what the beauty of this is.
Yes.
All right. Well,
namaste.
Namaste. Bless you.
Have a
Lo.
lovely day, and
You too.
we'll see you soon. Okay.
You got it. You got it.
All right, Dan.
Bye.
Bye.